Well, if you're a reporter with a tough question for the White House press secretary, President Biden's staff would like to know about it in advance. At least that's according to a new report from the Daily Beast. Joining us to discuss is Dave Rubin, the host of The Rubin Report, and our panelists Scott Walker and Rick Green also standing by. So this Daily Beast article says that several White House reporters have already on occasion been probed by President Biden's communications staff to see what sort of questions they plan on asking Press Secretary Jen Psaki. That is, of course, a huge red flag, especially if the reporters in the room want to maintain that there's a separation of the press and a separation from this administration. So, Dave, I'll go to you first. Do you believe there's some truth to this report about pre-screening reporters' questions?
Well, to quote Jen Psaki, the press secretary, I'll have to circle back to you on that. I mean, look, we're watching Amateur Hour, which is ironic, because we know that they are only going to get softball questions. I've watched a couple of these press briefings, and everyone sees the clips that go around Twitter. I mean, they're basically getting, can you say something bad about Trump, or, what color are the drapes in the White House type questions. So the idea that they have to vet these questions first is pretty crazy. And then Psaki basically punts everything. Anyway, I think we should just accept at this point that this is what the mainstream media is. This is what the administration is. And for those of us that want something true, we're just going to have to filter through all of that nonsense to figure out what it is. But if you're watching CNN, or you expect a Washington Post reporter to give you an honest question and then get an honest answer from the press secretary, you got another thing coming.
Well, Jen Psaki apparently took note of a common phrase that she used, circle back. We've mentioned it on this network. And she had a response for what she describes as conservative Twitter. Listen.
I often note I'm going to circle back. I hate to disappoint conservative Twitter, but I am going to circle back on a number of things, as we often do directly.
Dave, I'll go to you. Conservative Twitter, truthfully, how many voices are left? And I guess it is true that the press secretary is monitoring some Twitter feeds. Your thoughts?
Well, conservative Twitter, I mean, that's the one place that conservatives are going to be able to have a voice in this conversation. So, I'm glad that counter voices are at least in her mind, right? She's obviously thinking that people are going, oh, man, I really don't answer questions here, so I better address that there's some people talking about that. Hopefully we have a voice continually on these big tech platforms, but I'm worried about that too.
Scott Walker, I'll ask you, based on sort of the questions that Jen Psaki has received so far, comparison to what we had seen during the Trump administration. Again, it's the comparison. You could do this for the next 4 years, as I say, with sort of double standards and media and all this. But, what do you make of how these sort of non-answers that are given are almost accepted when it comes to the response from Jen Psaki when answering questions?
Well, I think in the spirit of the Super Bowl coming up this Sunday, we should just give jerseys to everyone in the press pool at the White House so we can see the sea of blue that's there. There might be one or two that'll be in red and maybe some that pretend to be purple, but most of them are blue. So just spell it out so we can all see it. The bottom line is they held a different standard to Donald Trump. As I mentioned, I'm here at the Reagan Ranch Center. There's a display up above where I'm at, right here in the center, that talks about how the press and many others attacked Ronald Reagan decades ago. I saw it firsthand as a governor. The media treats Republicans and conservatives different than liberals and Democrats. Instead of complaining about it, we just got to find new ways to communicate, which is why it's great to see how well Newsmax is doing and other forums that are out there. And Dave's right. We got to let our voices be heard on Twitter and other social media platforms to get the truth out, particularly to young people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to log back into Parler. It's still loading. So for now, certain voices are on Twitter. I guess you can tweet out your thoughts, and maybe Jen Psaki will see them. Dave Rubin joining us here on the program. Dave, thank you. Scott and Rick, stick around. You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.